Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the VectoScalar Tech Talk show. I'm your host, Vikash Jain. Guys, there are so many things that are happening in the tech world these days, and we should not be updated on those fronts. And that's the role played by VectoScalar Tech Talk, where we invite thought leaders in the tech zone to guide our audience that what they are doing, what differently can be done to keep growing and be successful in your zone. In this episode, we have our guest speaker, Kathita Goel, Senior Product Technology Manager, who is going to cover insights about the pivotal role of product management in driving digital transformation initiatives. Before I invite her, let me share a quick background about Kathita. Our guest speaker, Kathita Goel, is having more than 15 years of experience in engineering and product management in product companies like Adobe and Google. Apart from work, she enjoys gardening, yoga, reading books, coaching, and being part of communities that give her the opportunity to learn and share learning with others. And in the same insight, let me invite Kathita to our Vectoscalar Tech Talk show. Hi, Kathita.
Hi, Vikas, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And thanks to VectoScalar for starting this initiative.
Thank you very much. And as we were having that discussion, there is an interesting side of you where a person has also covered in his book Beyond IIT, where he talked about that how you get into such top companies without being from IIT. So quickly share about that your journey first.
Sure. Thanks for that. And basically, when I started with a non-IIT college, as we call it. I started an IGIT. I started with BTech. I did my BTech in Computer Science and Engineering. Right after that, I joined Adobe as a software engineer. Worked there for about 8 years, and during that time frame, I always wanted to learn something. So I thought, like, okay, I'll also do MBA by the sides. So I enrolled myself in an executive MBA, and starting then, it got me interested into a role, which was like this role of product manager. And I started to see, like, how can I see overlaps between these two roles. I was in a software quality role back then, and my dream role was product manager. So I was trying to see what are the parallels between these two. Like, you talk to engineers in both the roles, you understand what user is trying to like get out of the product, what do they want from the product, and you need clear, like, good communication skills to make sure you're talking to your like engineer counterpart or the stakeholders that you're working with. And and also the domain knowledge. Like, I was working in the space of ads, so I thought, like, the combination of these three skills enabled me to go to my next role, which was the role in Adobe of in Google of product technology manager. And like, one of my Adobe ex colleague reached out to me, like, during COVID time frame, and he was writing a book called Beyond IIT, like how not being from IIT, you can still achieve. Because I feel it's not to do with IIT or which college you're from. It's about the mindset that you have, how curious you are, and how well connected are you with the people or the sources which take you to the places.
That's very insightful. I must say this can inspire many people, especially in India. Like when people are, the economy is growing, the demand for new products is increasing, and I think with that, the role of product management is going very critical. So that comes bring back me to the question regarding the product management that we are discussing today. That can you define the role of product management in the context of digital transformation, and why is it considered such pivotal?
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can start with an analogy. Imagine a case you're renovating from an old house to a new house, which is also like where you are also planning to save energy. And consider the PM as an architect. Like, as an architect, I will try to understand what are the family's needs and lifestyle. I will work with the engineers, like, who are going to build it. I will work with the designer who's going to work on the interior design of the home, and also make sure, like, how we optimize for an energy efficient home. So without this architect, all of this combination is not possible. Like, I'm sure, like, if people have gone through the renovation work without someone supervising it, you know the kind of result you get. And the idea of architect is they bring the vision to life, and that's what it is similar to the PM role. And like, if you follow me on LinkedIn, recently I talked about the analogy where it's similar to a head chef role in a restaurant where they design the menu and bring like yummy recipes so that users don't just come once, they repeat one after another. Like they want to come to that restaurant on and on. So taking that analogy, the kind of role that product manager plays is it starts from designing the strategy. Like what should be the product strategy? How can I combine business with technology to meet like the evolving user needs? The focus is on evolving because the user needs are evolving. We are not using the Nokia phones anymore. Change. It still serves the same purpose, but the needs have changed because they can do much more with the smartphones that are available right now. Or for that matter, if we consider Netflix as an example, they started as a DVD delivery company, and now they are streaming company, right? So this evolution, like how do we make sure with technology we make use of technology to meet the business needs and also evolving user needs? How do you club these two? And to make this happen, like it sounds very simple and easy, but there are a lot of things that you need to do behind the scenes to make it happen, so that your job is done, like the user's job is done.
Definitely, that makes the job very pivotal and critical for the success of the product. And you correctly highlighted the evolving need, because we see that, okay, we understand our market, but the market is also evolving. So if even if when we say that we understand the market, we are just trying to understand the evolution of the market. That's a beautiful insight. And for the viewers, because as just Kathita said, that you can connect with her on LinkedIn as well and follow her to get the updated. So just below you can see her LinkedIn profile as well, where you can connect with her and know more about her. Now, and in case you have any question also, just type in the comment box below and I'll be taking them up gradually. Now, moving to the next question. So we understand the role of PM is very important and what the role about, but what are the key skills and qualities that a PM should possess to effectively lead digital transformation initiatives?
Sure. Yeah. And that's a very good question because we need to understand the kind of skill set you require to become an effective PM. Like we were talking about digital transformation, it makes it very crucial that you have that technical acumen. Like if LLMs and things technology is picking up, are you able to get the grasp on those technologies, right? Because unless or until you understand these technologies, you won't be able to like apply it. You don't need to get into the depth of like understanding the algorithm unless the product is such, but having a like basic technical acumen is required, and it should not be forced. Like you should be curious to learn. That's what I feel. Secondly, I feel you also need business acumen, so that not just use of technology, how do you make money out of it, right? How do you get business interested in it? So business acumen, like how do we connect the use of technology with the business need of it? And obviously, like all of these along with the leadership skills, where you make sure that you're able to have like those influential communication skills where you work with your stakeholders, your like engineers, your leadership. You're able to have that influence on making them understand everything very clearly and consistently. I'm saying clearly and consistently because the more clear you keep it, there are lesser assumptions and you are able to have everyone on the same page. And I'm saying consistently because the more you repeat it, the message stays in the head. Like, so you need both of them as well.
That's interesting. And it's also equally interesting to see that how you are actually effectively using it. So when you said clear and consistent and to highlight and influence, you actually made us highlight that comment that it should be consistent and it should be clearly understood. Don't ignore this word which I just said. So it is good to see that
Yeah,
you are
I think
practicing what you are preaching.
absolutely. And I mean, and not that I learned it from day one. I think you get it over time and you like observe it in the people that are doing it. Like it leaves an impression on you and you're like, why it left that impression on me? Because of XYZ. And then you pick up those skills as well. I mean, a lot of times I also compare like PM to the Swiss army. Like you have a lot of tools, you have a lot of skills. You have to be very versatile and adaptable. Like when to use which skill and be open to learning new skills. Like you can't keep a closed mindset. In fact, once like I have been following uh, some of the PM influencers. So one of them talks about high agency. Like you have to have the attitude of high agency. And I was reading about it. What does he mean by high agency? Is like if you're given a problem, you can have two attitude towards it. Like I cannot do this because of XYZ, or you can have an attitude where say I want to do this because I want to learn, because I want to overcome this challenge. So you need to have that high agency attitude where you want to get this thing done despite all the challenges that might be there on the way.
That's a very useful word to me, at least the high agency keyword, because I think in the technical space, the way things are evolving, we want people to perform at that level of high agency, because we might not knowing the technology, the business, or anything, but we need that attitude of high agency that whether we know it or not, it does not matter. The requirement is to know it, so we should just go and get it done. That's an
Absolutely.
important message, I'm sure, for our audience. Now, that's a very rosy picture, that the profile is critical, the skills and qualities are very interesting, where we are talking about technical, business, and influential skills, but there is nothing without the challenges. So what challenges do PM typically face when driving digital transformation efforts, and how do they overcome those challenges?
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting question, and it brings back a lot of memories to me as well. I would say, first of all, like I was saying, because we work with a lot of stakeholders, it's very important to align these diverse stakeholders, because all of us cannot be pointing to different direction. We have to go together. So how do we make sure all of us, like, how do you align with that stakeholder interest, right? Secondly, uh, given the constraints that we have, like we might be having limited bandwidth in terms of maybe the number of engineers or cost, right? And there might be competing demands, like there are a lot of stakeholders that we work with. So how do we manage with less resources and with so many competing demands? Like how do you prioritize? How do you make sure, yeah, you're taking decision in a fair manner, maybe making data informed decision in that case, right? So these are some things apart. And like I said, communication is very, very important, because a one miss here or there can cause a lot of confusion, which can take you a lot of time to fix. And and I mean, that's the key here, right? You have to make sure that your stakeholders are aligned, you are sending the right message to your leadership, and also you're making sure you're measuring the impact. Like you're doing all these things, but what kind of impact is it having? Is it measurable? If not, is there any proxy to it that you can connect to?
Okay. The things
Yeah,
which are
sorry,
very
one
critical.
more
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
sorry, one more thing that came to my mind, because we are talking about digital transformation, is like these transformations, like the way the word is transformation, are huge. Like they are disruptive in some cases, and not everybody, like I am saying, like we have diverse set of audience, they are not on the same page with when it comes to change management. So managing that change is very, I would say, very challenging job that a PM has to deal with. How do you make sure, like, I know there are risks associated with it. Like, if I have to integrate LLM in one of my product today, I have to take the risk that how do we make sure it doesn't hallucinate? And even if it hallucinates, like, how do we have guardrails in place so that we can handle the risks as well? So these are some changes that comes with technology, but at the same time, we need to make sure these risks and how do we handle this risk are communicated well to our stakeholders, so that they are okay with the change. Like they should understand the change will not be 100% in the first phase, but eventually we will get there.
So we come out with the important guidelines, that the challenges and how we can overcome that, like prioritization, communication, measuring the impact, which I also feel is very critical. I think someone said that if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So definitely the measuring is important, and managing that change. With the evolving nature, definitely organization will change. So that brings up me to a different thought, that when we are talking about change, that change is happening, the customer needs are evolving, but how do we make sure that my team, our organization, is having that change ready culture? Or in other words, we can say that how can organization foster a culture of innovation and continuous improvement with the PM as a central figure in their digital transformation journey?
Yeah, I mean, innovation is very important because if we don't innovate, we will lag behind or somebody else is going to replace us. Like we need to maintain that competitive edge. Now, to innovate, there are few things that we need to do, right? One is to make sure we are experimenting, and the company and the organization enables that experimentation because we know, like we may not, like I said, we may not get the result we desire, but we need to see like where are we right now. Maybe sometimes we will be surprised by the results, or sometimes it may not work as the way we expected. But unless we experiment, we won't get to know. We won't get to know those sweet surprises that can make that drastic change from A to B. Like, if I can give an example of Chat GPT, right? They came up with a user interface. Like, there were LLMs in place, but that user interface made, like, introduction of that interface made all the change. So like experimenting is one thing. Second is enabling a culture of knowledge sharing, and also you have to be updated, so enabling that culture of attending those conferences, training, which is very important for PMs or the team to stay updated. Like they may not all be at the same page. If a new technology is there, unless they understand it, they won't be able to brainstorm it and think of new ideas. So it's very important for them to learn those technologies, and for companies to enable a culture where knowledge sharing is like encouraged. Secondly, experiments are encouraged, and they should be able to give that like time and money to do those experiments. And there's something else I can think of is also reward them, like reward them not just for success, but also for failing. Because if you're just looking at success, like I said, not all experiments are going to be success. Some of them are going to fail, but you need to make uh, make make everyone feel comfortable with those failures so that they are able to experiment more and reward them as well.
That's a very interesting chat list for cheat sheet for, I think, or probably the checklist I should call it, for the culture of innovation, the experimentation, knowledge sharing, and keeping the organization and the members updated by attending events and talks and many other things. You also talked about a very important point, which is about keeping a time and budget, because we say that we want our team to innovate, but if they are pressed with the existing work so much, they are not getting the time to innovate. So allocating a time and budget. And you also talked about rewarding the failures, and which made me further curious that would you like to share any of your personal example or personal experience where how one can reward the failures?
From the personal experience, I remember back in time, like like when I just started in my corporate journey, uh, like there was a scenario like where I extended beyond what my role's expectation was, right? And like it was rewarded in the sense of what I achieved, not failure in that case. But I think even if it was failure, uh, the organization, like I would have been comfortable in the company because you get the sense how they react to the failure. Like I don't have clear example right now in my mind, but I think uh, based on my experience, I haven't felt like if I fail, the organization is not going to support me. So you need to be, when you have to innovate, you need to be surrounded by that sort of management or leaders who encourage you to experiment and fail. Only, I mean, I think only then you can innovate at the scale that you want to.
And I think just because I have written book too, so it came out that probably it needs a book itself, that how to reward the failures, because lot many people will be interesting. And probably after this talk, if you can collate that in your blog or probably in your future LinkedIn blog, we will be look forward to having those connection, that how we can reward the failures, because it's a very important thing. And also not just for product management, but for it is very critical for any leader on the organization, that how you can reward the failures to build that culture of innovation.
Yeah, I feel at the same time the message should not be sent across that okay, we are okay with all the failures, because I know business wise it's not feasible. But I think there should be some, like I personally feel there should be some sort of scoring to make sure like you started with a target of success, which was very much like from data we could see like it could have been a success, but even if it fails, that should be fine because you know like it was a calculated risk that was taken. But
Mm,
yeah,
that
fair point. I should
double-edged,
probably write a
double-edged
blog.
sword. We should keep the right innovation in place and inspiration.
Absolutely. Innovation on the scoring here.
Yeah. Okay. In between, I would like to take one question. So I have Saddam Hussein asking, in your experience, how does effective collaboration between product management, development teams, and other departments accelerate the digital transformation process?
Yeah, very great question, Saddam. It plays a very crucial role in the sense because you're talking about acceleration. If you're not effectively collaborating, you might get stuck with clarifying certain assumptions, being aligned on same page. So when you are spending time in those clarification and bringing everyone on that same page, you might miss out on the opportunity. Like if you had to do an experiment, which was crucial to do, like you had to be agile and you had, let's say, just 1 month. If you spend that time explaining to the group where like they are not having this going forward together attitude, it can take you time to get together and experiment. Like you will spend a lot of time convincing each other, whereas if a team has trust between each other, like they will be okay with like going ahead and like taking the calls while they are on the way. But there are times when you are like stuck in a position where you're making so many discussions before you take that decision, and as a result you get delayed.
Okay, so I hope, Saddam, your question is answered that the collaboration is critical. And again, like the evolving nature of the product, the teams are also evolving. So product manager need to keep
Yeah,
viewing that how they are seeing the need and what is the need of the hour right now, so that teams should work together in one direction.
absolutely. And one more thing I would like to add here, Vikas, is that there should be a culture of like having an open feedback. It should not be the blaming or like questioning just for the sake of questioning. We should be open towards accepting feedback, like discussing it, so that like we are able to also figure out or flesh out some of the details early on. But it should be done in a right spirit, is my point. Like effective. It should be like we should go together. Like even if I am getting a critical feedback, I should not take it negatively. I mean, like, and you should have the trust between three of the teams.
Okay, and while we understand, trying to understand our team, I think just a thought came up that probably the human psychology or the psychology as a subject or one or two book at least should be part of the PM curriculum, because on one side you are trying to understand the psychology of the users, and on the other side you are understanding the psychology of your team too, so that they can work together. So probably human psychology could be one essential topic for PMs.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you have to understand where is the other person coming from. Like rightly you said, if user is there, what is user trying to do? And best way to know that like is through surveys are one way, but I feel like when you shadow a user, you understand what they are trying to do. Like sometimes you just observe them and you realize okay how they operate and what are they trying to do. So that's one thing. And the other thing that you talked about is like understanding your stakeholders, like what are their roles and responsibilities, what are they trying to do in this whole project that you're working on, right? So if you become enabler for each other and if you trust each other, that becomes very important. And for that to happen, you have to understand like what role and responsibility they play and how can I as a PM enable them to get there, right? So yeah, definitely I haven't read so many psychology book, but and I know you are interested in the topic, so would love to know like some book recommendations from you for my future reads. And yeah, absolutely agree to this.
Sure, and good to see. That's a curious nature. Probably you were talking about as a product manager that I just talked about a topic, and now you're curious to know more about that topic and read more. I think that showcase that the how good you are at the role that you are talking about. I have another question. where someone is asking that you talked about more of performing the role as a technical product manager, but sometime in some organization they are differentiate and have two different roles: technical product manager and business product manager. So how these two roles do they actually exist, and if they exist, how do they collaborate and perform different role?
I have typically heard about like technical program managers and product managers, and and then there is program manager. So I would assume, like I'm like from the name, I'm guessing like if it's a more technical product, like the where the product manager is supposed to know the know-how, research, and algorithms behind the scene. It could be an example of finance based app where they need to understand like what's the algo going behind the scene. They need to be more technical in nature, but in general, like not all product managers need to be very technical, but I feel like if they're in digital transformation space, they need to be tech savvy at least. Like they should be like they should know what's going behind. Like they should know, I feel like they should know how web works, like those basic things, how systems are designed.
Okay.
And these are
Okay.
like these are easy to learn. Like I would also say like these are not as complicated to learn as you don't have to write an algorithm. Like you have to understand how these systems talk to each other and what is the role of each individual component in the whole system. So I don't want to scare people away from this, like okay, I'm not technical in nature so I cannot do it. If you like follow like some of the influencers who are teaching this topic and like are curious, there are ways you can get, like you can learn it. I mean, like we have been talking about it, you need to have that curiosity, you need to have that growth mindset. Uh like you should not close yourself saying that I only know xyz so I cannot know more than this. You have to be open to it because everybody learned somewhere or other and your journey is starting from like zero, but you can always start.
That's very insightful. And now there is one more thing which is equally important for any business, which is about the ethics. So, can you discuss the ethical consideration that PMs need to keep in mind when implementing digital transformation initiative, particularly in areas like data privacy and security, because it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think when you're a product manager, you are responsible for a lot of things, and ethics play a very important role. Uh, Making sure, like first of all, you're accountable for any issues that arise. So you can't say like this is not my job. If something is wrong, you got to fix it. And that's where I was talking about the guardrails. Like if you identify something is wrong, you need to pick the right, have proper guardrails in place to make sure it doesn't repeat, it doesn't happen again. First of all, you need to proactively make sure this doesn't happen. Even if it happens, you should take the responsibility, you should fix it. Secondly, I would talk about privacy, security, right? How do you make sure the data that is being shared, like a lot of products operate on user behavior, what user is doing, and so user data is captured. So making sure like you're acting responsibly in the sense you are only storing as much data as much is needed and for the duration it is needed. Like if I need a data for last 2 days, I should not store last 30 days data, right? And secondly, when I'm storing this data, am I making sure it's secure, it's well encrypted, right? And there are retention policies in place, making sure like they're also deleted when they are not needed anymore. Also giving transparency to user. Like they should understand how my data is getting used. Like these days people are very curious, like you're saving my data, but what are you going to do about it? So they need to understand what's the value they're getting by sharing that data and what can they miss out on if they don't do it. Making sure they are also giving them opt-out policies. Like maybe I'm okay without that benefit. I'm not comfortable sharing that data. So give user that option that you can opt out of it, right? So these are certain things, and they're much more like there's an area around like responsible AI, ethical AI. If you want to like know more about that, that can be done. But just giving a high level idea, these are certain things that one needs to look at as a PM because you are a responsible, like you're building product for like making sure that trust with user is maintained. So how do you ensure that you're being a responsible PM? You're being transparent, you're accountable, you are making sure like the data is private, data is secured, and they are given options to opt out if they need to. And these days, like, there are a lot of legal compliances in place. Like, it could vary from market to market. So when you're launching in a particular market, how do you make sure all those compliances are followed before you launch in that market? And that, like, sometimes, depending on company to company, you might need to know those compliances, or you might have a legal team that helps you with those compliances. I think that was a long answer, but yeah, I was trying to
No,
capture
but
everything.
we were looking for the long answer because the topic is critical. The ethical consideration, probably a beginning engineer, person who is at the level of probably software engineer or senior software engineer, may not even understand the importance of it at the beginning. But as a product manager, it is very important that we understand that important. And you started with a very important point itself, which is about accountability. That as a PM, you can't, like we have in any law, we can't say that I didn't know about law, but that does not matter.
Yeah.
You, whether you knew it or not, you are accountable and you are responsible. So if a person keep that mindset of accountability and responsibility, they will definitely act in a manner so that they show that they are actually responsible.
Yeah, I mean, think of it like how doctors operate, right? They have a responsibility. They have to make sure they're not doing any harm, and they're making sure of the patient's well-being. Similarly, in this case, like, we are building for so many users, how do we make sure their data is well taken care of and is captured only when it is needed?
Yes. And in between, Kathita, you talked about responsible AI. And if we talk about it, we have a similar question from, again, coming from Saddam Hussein, who is asking, how do you see the role of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies influencing the future landscape of product management in the context of digital transformation? I see two part to it. One, the products are using artificial intelligence. That's one side. And in the side note, a similar thought came to me. Are we seeing a AI bot type product manager evolving? Probably that, who is able to perform the role of a product manager.
Yeah, that would be interesting, and I don't think that's not possible. You might not know, like, it might be launching somewhere. But yeah, good questions, both of them. First of all, yeah, I mean, we see a lot of AI products. Like, I guess a lot of organizations are focusing on how do we get AI in our products, but we need to also see, like, I think as a PM, we need to understand first what AI can enable us to do, right? And what is our goal to do in a particular product? Is AI replacing what I'm trying to do? So, yes, we can use AI. If AI is augmenting what I'm trying to do, like if the user is getting some additional data, they might not be completing the task that user is trying to, but it enables them to do it easily, faster, or better. You can use AI. But you need to be very careful in the scenario where it's like critical to be 100% right, right? Because, like, accuracy and recall, like, all these things play a lot of role. How do you make sure that the output, the outcome that you're getting is 100% accurate? So yes, we see, like, AI and emerging technologies influencing the way products are being built, like, even how code is being written, how code is being designed, like, enabling the engineers as well. So even, like, in that case, expediting product development, at the same time influencing maybe things which were not possible earlier, like, can we enable user to do XYZ which they were not able to do earlier? Like, if they had to go to a therapist or a coach earlier, it was costing them few dollars, and now with the these chatbots around, like these LLMs around, how do we enable them in a scalable way, not at which are not so costly as well?
Okay,
Coming to
that's very,
second question, that yeah, coming to second
yeah.
question, that puts my, like, all PM's job at risk. But I feel there is a crucial element to PM's role, which is empathy, right, and influential communication. I don't think empathy is yet there, but yeah, the day it's there, I'm sure it will replace. But yeah, I don't think right now it's there. It's not AGI yet. Uh, and the second part is around influential communication. I think it's able to have that data, it's able to communicate, but it doesn't know like it won't enable that collaboration yet. So yeah, it
Yeah.
can augment our role. It can help us do things faster, like creating template, giving us ideas. Second, like maybe pair PM, like you brainstorm together with the LLM or chatbot. But yeah, I mean, not a complete replacement yet.
That's very important point. Talking about the first one, you hit on a very subtle point, which is that there is a mass following that just implement AI. You talked about a critical point that it's an ongoing journey. You see that what is the improvement that one is looking for, and just see that if any other AI tool can provide that improvement. So it's a more of a strategic role. It's not just that blind following of that you have to go to the new technology. There are few people who are just like blindly going after, no, AI is it, I have to be on AI, versus a way of which is a constant evolution. Before even computers were there were some other tools which were used. So it's like a mindset of, can I use another tool, a better tool which can enhance my performance, enhance my productivity, and create better result. That's for first. And second, yeah, I understand on the empathy part and influence part, but in many AI conferences I think people talk that quote, and it will be useful here as well, which, if I'd say in the context of PM, that AI will not replace PM, but PM with AI will replace PM without it, probably. That may happen.
Yeah, I think exactly the whole idea to say is like, don't be blind to it, don't ignore
Yeah,
it, use it as and when you can, because it can act as an enabler at least at the moment. So don't ignore it. Like, know what it can help you with. Like you said, PM without AI can like it's like you don't have a tool in your hand, right? There is a
true.
tool available, like you can move things around, you have a lever, but you're not using that lever, you're still pushing things manually. Like, how is that going to help? Like, you can still do it, but you're putting extra effort. Why?
That's very insightful, and that brings me to the last question. And before that, another message for viewers. Viewers, I'm sure you must have liked this insightful conversation where Kathita share so many interesting information about the product management role and how this is very critical. In case you have any other or last round of questions or comments or compliments for Kathita, do share in the chat box while I take up the last question of podcast today. And my last question is about that. What's your advice for aspiring PMs who want to excel in this field of digital transformation? And is it possible to switch to PM role from different roles?
Absolutely. If I did that, anybody can do that. Yeah, that's how I see it. Because like I came from quality engineering to product management because one, you need to see the skill sets you have. Then you need to see where are the gaps. And when you identify those gaps, you need to see how you can build on those gaps. Like, I wasn't good at communication. I built that gap, right? I was a very introvert shy person where I used to think like for the longest time I did not do MBA because I thought I'm not like my management is not my cup of tea. Like that was my fixed mindset. That was like early in my career. But when I did MBA, it completely shifted that thought process where I started thinking about like, oh, I like this role. Can I try this? Can I experiment with this? Like, is there something I can look up for? So I started, I remember I wrote an article on LinkedIn back then. It must be 2014 or 2013, I guess. And probably that article helped me get this role as well because somewhere it reflected my interest in the topic. I was not in that role earlier, so it helped me get this role as well. So somewhere my interest in the topic was seen by the hiring recruiter, where I feel myself lucky because it's not back in time. It was not easy to switch to the role because switching roles were not the thing that time. But I think now it's fairly easy, not like I would say easy, not fairly easy, because there are platforms, there are training materials, there are influencers who are helping people learn and build those skills, bridge that gap so that they can get there. So definitely, yeah, it's definitely viable.
Okay, and with that, we have come closer to the our show, and it's an important message. Thanks, Kathita, for sharing such beautiful insights for our viewers, that how they can grow, how they can keep continuously. Because in the need of the hour, when we talk about that, we need new products, we need relevant products. The role of product manager is very critical. Thanks again for being on our show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Vikas, for giving me this opportunity, and I hope the viewers find it helpful.
Yes, and for the viewers that keep watching our VectoScalar Tech Talk show, because next week we'll again come back with another thought leader who can inspire you, share things with you that you want to grow in your career and build quality products. With that, bye bye. It's your host Vikas Chan.
Thank you. Bye.